China, a country with a rich history of more than 6 millennia, and extends a large area over East Asia, is one of the areas with the first signs of human civilization. Most of the population is atheist, and its only strong political party, the Communist Party, is a lone choice for voters, so their beliefs were not a difficulty. Canada, on the other hand, was a fairly new land. Its first people were the Aboriginals, who were believed to have migrated through an ice bridge from Asia. Contact with the rest of the world started 1,000 years ago. The actual relations began when Europeans made settlements on their land. Since then, Canada has established itself as a unique country that encourages multiculturalism and has become the home to many immigrants from struggling or rejected countries. Back in the year 1858, Chinese immigrants first started arriving in groups when word spread about the gold rushes happening all over British Columbia. Most settled into Fraser Canyon, only to find that they were forbidden to mine for gold until the white miners had finished at the location and moved on to another. Nonetheless, they never gave up and turned out to be very successful in striking gold. They even invented a machine that separates gold more precisely from the rocks, a machine that the white miners also used. The next big rush of immigration was because of the railway. For British Columbia joined the Confederation in 1871, Prime Minister Sir John A. Macdonald promised a railway connecting BC to eastern Canada within 10 years. And to accomplish that, he planned to hire Chinese laborers, as they are cheap. From 1881 to 1884, 5,000 laborers came from China to work for less than half of any other worker's wage. They experienced a hard life. They lived in unsafe canvas tents, but still built 500 kilometers of the most dangerous part of the railway. After the railway was completed, many were left jobless because the government banned Chinese immigrants from having an occupation. Instead, they had to do work that Canadian citizens did not want to do. Jobs included opening grocery stores, restaurants, laundry shops, and salmon processing. Other immigrants had also started to arrive in Canada to escape the massive population growth in China. The government spoke against this. They created the head tax for Chinese immigrants. Each individual had to pay $50 to come to Canada in 1884, which was later raised to $500. The Chinese felt unwelcome in Canada. British Columbia was the site chosen to settle for most Chinese immigrants to Canada. But after the railway labor, some started to move east in hope of finding better occupations. They struggled with life in Canada, though. They were forced to assimilate into Canadian society as they were not accepted as themselves. Therefore, they created Chinatowns, an area of land where only Chinese immigrants lived. They were also forbidden to vote in any level of government. They had no rights as a citizen. On July 1st, 1923, the Chinese Immigration Act was made. This act proclaimed that Chinese immigrants were prohibited to enter Canada, except for special circumstance cases. We were allowed to go back to China to get married, but were not allowed to bring our wives and children to Canada. Your mother and I separated for 15 years. 15 years of misery away from my family because of racial discrimination. Edward Ma. This act was further abolished in 1947 when the Chinese Canadians were given full citizen rights. Chinese immigrants still had troubles in Canada. When China supported North Korea in the Korean War, where the United States supported the South, Canadians resented them more. The government of Canada found that fake Chinese Canadian birth certificates were selling in Hong Kong. This allowed them to enter Canada freely as they are left orphans in Hong Kong. When the Royal Canadian Mounted Police proclaimed that any who confessed were to be pardoned, 12,000 came forward. In 1971, Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau put multiculturalism into Canada, and many foreign groups started to fit in. This did not solve everything, though. Mayor of Markham, Ontario, expressed that Chinese presence in his city caused white citizens to move out. W5, a Canadian news magazine TV series, created an episode that said that Chinese students were taking away the university educations of white citizens. A girl even spoke out that her high marks were being excluded in the pharmacy programs because of high numbers of foreign students. Research was done by the Chinese Canadians and found that there were only 20,000 university students, and none of them were enrolling in the program that year. From the 1980s to the 1990s, life was difficult in Canada once again, with the economic bust. China's economy, however, was fast growing, so men left to work in China, but their families stayed in Canada for the better education and well-being. Hong Kong, a British colony since 1842, was returned back under China's power in 1997. Citizens, however, were unsure of how China would treat them, so between 1991 and 1996, over 18,000 immigrants came to settle in North America for the British presence and stable life. They generally settled in Toronto and Vancouver because they were established Chinese societies. In 1995, the Chinese head tax was further increased to $975, but the biggest source of immigration still came from China. An average of 30,000 immigrate every year, 15% of Canada's total immigration. When the Conservative Party was elected in 2006, the head tax was cut in half to $490. Stephen Harper also publicly apologized for the mistreatment of Chinese Canadians and offered $20,000 to the ones who were affected by the Chinese Exclusion Act. Only 20 of them are still alive. Even though life has gotten better for Chinese immigrants to Canada, discrimination is still seen. I couldn't find anything. I had been teaching for 12 years in China, so I talked to the BC College of Teachers, but they said I'd have to go back to school. Jingfei Wang. Troubles with work experience still rise up today. Even through the troubles, many Chinese immigrants still choose Canada as their new home, for its clear atmosphere, better education, jobs, and safety. Today, being Canadian means to be able to live freely and openly in a country where you are accepted for your ethnic and political choice. We have to remember the Chinese workers who gave their lives to build this country. Susan Ng, co-chair of the Coalition of Chinese Head Taxpayers.